Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Chief David Addison. I'm the Chief of Police for the Statesville Police Department. And seated over here is Assistant Chief David Only, Assistant Chief John Iverson. Last night was a very tragic night in our city. It was heartbreaking. 6:56, we responded to a call, 2 individuals that were shot. When the officers arrived on scene, they were children. I can't begin to explain the frustration and the sadness that I have, because I know that there were people out there who knew who the shooters were, who know who they are. And have gotten to this point where we're not giving information, and I think that's a detriment. Because when I hear someone say, and I just posted on our social media this morning, when I hear someone say that I'm not a snitch, you're basically saying that my community doesn't matter. While we were out at that scene with everything that was going on, the officers, when they got there, started to provide medical first aid to the 2 young children. And they were transported to the hospital. While we were out there, there was more gunfire. As we responded to that second scene, which is on New Bern Avenue, there was another young man struck. We put him in the back of a police car and we drove him to the hospital. These crimes should never happen in any community. As a police chief, this is one of my saddest days, that we lose a child, an innocent child, behind gun violence. 2 others that were injured. I ask this community that if you have the information, if you saw what transpired, you have to come forward. If this was your child, as if it was someone you loved, you would expect someone to do that for you. As I was walking around the scene last night, looking at the officers' faces, because deep down, all the first responders were parents too. Many of them could relate to their children at home. We don't deserve this, and that young lady did not deserve this violence. Not in our city. I want to thank Homeland Security, ATF, State Bureau of Investigations, U.S. Marshal Service, the Iredell County Sheriff's Office, all of them for stepping up last night. One thing that we do know is there was 2 vehicles that were traveling northbound on Wilson Lee Boulevard. One was a white Mercedes, and the other one we're still looking for is a white Honda Accord. We have the white Mercedes. We're processing that vehicle now. That vehicle was stopped in Mooresville by the Iredell County Sheriff's Department, and a Mr. Nasir Turner was detained and questioned. He was not charged. Both the vehicles were seen going down out to Troutman, traveling together. We know these vehicles were in our community several times. The people that they're exchanging gunfire with, they know exactly who's shooting at them, but they refuse to come forward and give us any leads, which is challenging for us to solve crime when no one will give you the information that you need to solve it. And I want to dispel this whole myth about not snitching. That is the greatest lie ever told. Because if you do that, you're only allowing our community to go into a violent turmoil, which we refuse to let happen. If we have to employ every resource that we have in the city of Statesville and work with all of our federal partners, we will hunt all of those who choose to prey on our citizens in our community. So we are going to fight back. But we need the community's help. We actually got a call last night at 1820 Wilson Lee Boulevard about possible 2 subjects that were down there that was possibly somehow related. And when we got down to that location, Mr. Aaron Whitmore and Mr. Davion Patterson, both were found with 2 guns, which we seized those, and they were charged with firearm by convicted felon. We're going to be working with the district attorney's office to make sure these gentlemen don't have an opportunity to put another gun in their hands for a while. This has been a very long night for the families, and our thoughts and prayers as I went to speak with the mother and the father at the hospital yesterday. I can't begin to tell you how sad it is that we have to do this again. I met with the family and offered our condolences, and our thoughts and prayers are with them. And now I'll turn it over for any questions you may have.
Chief, you talked about the two vehicles. Were they shooting at each other or shooting at the homes? And these two individuals that were charged with firearms violations, do you believe they were connected to these shootings?
Regarding the two vehicles, they were riding together. They were not shooting at each other. Regarding the two individuals, we're not certain at this point. They were actually a different location from the vehicle, so we don't believe that they were inside the vehicle.
Chief, any reason to believe that these crimes are gang-related?
We believe that these incidents stem from sometimes relationships that they have in the community, that people don't get along. And although sometimes somebody may be a member of a gang, we don't think that was the origin of how all this got started.
Chief, were they targeting the house where the first shooting occurred?
We do not know exactly what they were targeting, if they were targeting specifically that house.
What about the other one? Is it connected to the second shooting?
We believe they're possibly connected. We're still actively investigating this case, so a lot of your questions you may have, I may not have an answer to provide you right now, and there's some information that we're not going to disclose because it's being actively investigated.
Chief, with this being early into the summer, is there a plan for a public safety plan for South Statesville with these guns, these legal guns particularly?
Yeah, this was supposed to be just for media only, but yes, we actually did an operation about a month ago for which we are actually on the south side. And we actually were down there for about a month, and we had one shooting. And Captain Ballard is the captain for that district, and we're working with the Sheriff's Department, and we're going to do it again. But that doesn't replace the fact that we need citizens to come forward, those who have information about these crimes. Because if you don't come forward, we can't solve these crimes. It's a little bit of a hurdle that's put in front of us. Now, this is our third homicide of this year. And all the homicides from last year and the year before have all been solved, and we're going to work very diligently to solve this one.
Has the family given you any names whatsoever of possible suspects?
We are following every lead that we get, ma'am.
How many tips so far have you received from the community?
We're not disclosing that at this point.
I saw some officers who were walking around the neighborhood today, doing some community policing. How frequently are they in that community doing that?
We've been engaged in our community, and this is our community because we live here very often. We just had a cleanup on the south side about 3 or 4 weeks ago. We were down there picking up trash. We had a cookout for the community. Our captains within their respective beats are actually going out and doing our public service in these communities, so it's not just law enforcement responses that you're getting. We're actually going out and becoming integrated within the community because that is very important when you're serving a community. Yes, sir.
Idea at this point, how many shots were fired in that first residence where the 8-year-old girl died? And also, were you called there previously for other shootings? Family members told me that they've been fired upon before at that house, that house has been struck before.
We have been down in that community several times because of gunfire. We have. How many times, to answer your first question, how many times the house was hit, I can't give you a specific number. It was several.
But specifically that house, was that house hit by gunfire? Were you called to it 2 months ago?
I'd have to look that up, and I can provide that to you.
As far as the initial shooting, was there any other people on the street at that time, or was it just the children that were in that area where the shots were fired?
There were other people in the community, and that's why we need them to come forward. That's why this is so important, because there were other people out there, and people know these two groups that have been shooting at each other, and we need them to come forward.
Chief, what would you tell these guys that were, anybody who was involved in this thing? The children were outside. They could have seen the children. They should have seen the children, and they still opened fire.
That carelessness and recklessness, which isn't, it's unfortunate that we're seeing that across the nation, but that carelessness and recklessness, we can't allow that to exist here. They should have seen those children out in the front yard. Why would you still pull the trigger? I do not know.
Family members told us at the first house that they were shooting at
No, ma'am, I've not talked to the family and gotten that information from them.
Chief, just for some clarity, you said there's two groups that were shooting at each other. Is that at the first residence where you were called to last night?
These two groups have been over time. The white Mercedes we've seen down in that community before, but whenever we go down there and we were soliciting people to tell us what happened, no one will give us any information. We're able to get some other evidence to show that vehicle on that block last night.
Was somebody else shooting at them?
From what we can see, they were just shooting from the car. Yes.
Chief, you're making a plea for folks to call in. You acknowledge that they may be afraid to do that. What can you tell them to assure them that they can be anonymous and they can be safe if they do give you the information you're looking for?
Yes, if they call our criminal investigations division and they can give the information about the crime related to the crime, even if they say, I know the person that was there that saw that shooting take place, we can investigate that. And we also have Crime Stoppers. They can call Iredell County Crime Stoppers, and that will work as well.
Chief, do you believe these the shooters were from Iredell County, or do you think they were from elsewhere?
We don't know, and I don't want to speculate on that one. Thank you.
Who is the other group? The white Mercedes, and then the other group is in the white Honda?
No, I answered that question earlier. We said that those two were riding together.
Then do you believe that the other group could be in the house and that house is targeted?
No, ma'am, we don't. Right now, because it's under investigation, I don't know at that point. I don't want to make a assumption on that one.
And both shooting scenes are connected. There's no doubt at this point.
I wouldn't say there's no doubt. We believe so. And this is still early in this investigation. And as we begin to update this case, we'll be sharing this information with you. Part of what we're doing is being transparent about things that are going on in our city so that you know about them.
You think they might be connected, but maybe different people because you got two different cars, right? Or am I wrong on that?
Ask your question again.
So you said that the two scenes, you think that those shootings may possibly be connected,
Yes,
but different people in each of these cars. You have the white Honda and the Mercedes.
that is correct.
Okay, so,
Chief, can you update us on the status of the two other children?
One is, they're both still in local hospitals, being treated. One should be in stable condition. The first one. One more question.
Do you have any idea the caliber weapon involved? Was it a rifle, handgun?
We do, but we're not releasing that at this time.
You had mentioned that somebody was found with the Mercedes, was detained and then released. I guess, what reason was there to, not charge them at the time they were with the car?
Just because they were with the car doesn't mean they were there when the shooting occurred. So we have to have more evidence before we can connect them to the actual crime. Yes. I want to thank you all for your time today. And again, we'll keep you posted on anything, any updates or any changes that may come along. But thank you again for coming. Mr. Turner, last name is Turner. First name is Nasir, Nasir. Thank you. 18.